Let us move into our review of the week. We're chugging right along
Aren't
here
we?
right
This is
now.
gonna
This
be
is
a-
great. Moving at a brisk clip, as they say in the sailing world. We're going to review The Estates today, designed by Klaus Zock, who is mostly a designer that I'm not familiar with. He is a German designer who made a game called Bossock and Chicken Cha Cha Cha, two games I've never played nor heard of until I looked him up. Artwork by Don van Paridon and Wies van Paridon. I apologize for definitely butchering both of those. It is a game that plays 2 to 5 players in roughly 40 to 60 minutes.
Yep.
It originally came out under the name of New Heimat, a German name. Came out in 2007. Was a small print game from the publisher had their own. The designer had his own publishing company called Chili Games, which is just a tiny little company that I think they, this must have been a very small print run, a couple hundred, I would imagine, or so. But in 2008, Capstone Games, who also did Pipeline with their first original game. Capstone was known mostly for taking games, lesser known games, and republishing them and giving them sort of nicer components and updating stuff and just getting to the mass market. And so they kickstarted The Estates in 2018. It raised $75,000. And I actually missed that Kickstarter, but on the Pipelines pre-order, I was able to get in on the late backing on that and add a copy of The Estates to mine. And I will say right now, I hate to do this, but The Estates is almost impossible to get right now.
Is it?
Yeah. So I hate reviewing a game that you most likely can't get your hands on. This is a $30 to $40 game that you'll be spending $100, $200 on right now, unfortunately, just because it's in between prints. It will be reprinted again. It just might be a little bit, but a lot of people backed it, especially with Pipeline. I know a lot of people that got it along with that. So you might be able to find somebody in your area who has one and try it. But yeah, either way, let's talk about The Estate. So what is The Estates, Paul?
Well, The Estates is you're basically what a real estate.
Okay, let me. I'll read the. Do you want to read us the little
I actually
blurb?
don't have it in front of me.
Oh, you don't have it in front of you. Okay, I can read it. Well, there's a little blurb. So, the City Council recently approved the zoning map for a new urban development, The Estates, featuring high-end infrastructure and a modern atmosphere for its citizens. Soon after, the banks awarded millions of dollars in loans to 6 real estate investment firms to help develop this new area. The zoning map for The Estates calls for 2 rows of 4 buildings each, located between the river and Main Street. The meadows on the other sides of the river are to remain a recreational area for the city. But with the hopes of larger profits, investors and building tycoons entirely ignore the city council's demands and begin developing 3 rows of buildings instead. The mayor catches wind of potential for profit and begins planning a new mansion in the estates. This is so much more theme than anyone's ever read into it. The estates, which would double the value of one of the building rows. With some sketchy building permits, investors begin developing on the other side of the river beyond the designated building zone. However, the city council takes rigorous steps to put an end to the racketeering with an ultimatum. As soon as the first 2 rows are completed, the buildings in the uncompleted row will be torn down, resulting in a huge loss for all who invested there. At the end of the day, the investor with the highest value buildings will come out on top. That is a lot of thought gone into a game that it basically has no theme.
Well, it's a knife fight, right?
Yeah, but it could also totally just be an abstract game.
Absolutely. And I think
the theme is nice and the art is gorgeous. I will say I love the artwork on this game. I think it's beautiful, but it is superfluous.
I think the art is actually deceptive because it makes it seem like a nice, fun.
Oh yeah,
game.
no, I love it. It's almost like Root in the sense that this is fun. Let's stab each other. Yeah, oh my, there's a knife in my neck.
No, so basically, the game is simple. There are a few components, like there's the board, and then there are these blocks that represent like floors of buildings.
Mm-hmm. In the original version, they were dice.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, these blocks are worth a number of points, and so you can basically you lay a block down, and then you have to put a block that is of a lower value on top of that block.
Right.
The real issue is that only the top block counts as far as whose ownership of that.
Yeah. Every other you own every block beneath yours if you are the top block.
Exactly. And so like if Matt has a 6 and I have a 1 and it's a 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that building is mine.
Yeah.
And so then
you get all the points or lose all the points. So this is the meanest game I own. I own a couple hundred games. I've owned many hundreds beyond that in the past. This is the meanest game I've ever owned. This is a game that I would not play with people who are opposed to potentially take that negative player experiences. This game is boiled down in its essence to a take that game for the most part. The main, this is also A pure auction game.
Yes.
I think I said in the episode last week, if there was a Hunger Games type reality that we are all thrust into, in which bidding for things decided your fate, this would be the game you would play to train to survive.
This is absolutely true. Like, I have a love-hate relationship about this game.
Everybody does. Everyone who has played this game should love it and hate it.
I think Tom probably really loves it because I think Tom is probably the best bidder in our group right now. But like, I am not the best bidder by far.
So you said this game is boiled down to just tell me what you think this game really is boiled down to.
Like, ultimately, this game is boiled down to your ability to what's the word? It's evaluate the situation, assess that. Basically, you can a component comes for auction. You decide how much that's worth to you personally.
Right. So let me just back up for people for a little bit. So at the beginning of your turn, you have 24 building blocks to choose from, but you actually have 6. You have 3 at one end and 3 at the other, and then you have a bunch of special things to choose from as well. And your first thing you do is you choose what you are putting up for auction, and then tell people what happens.
And then basically in clockwise right? Clockwise order, like every person bids, and basically the highest bid, the person who
it's Age of Steam rules. You get 1 bid.
Exactly.
If you pass, you're out.
And the person who the highest bid. Basically, the person who puts up for auction gets the choice to either get paid that or match that.
Right.
And so ultimately, you're assessing how much is this piece worth. It's positive for me, or if you get it negative for someone else.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because you can. So and also there are 6 companies, right? Sort of 18xx train line companies, and you become the permanent owner of that company when you buy the first block associated with a company. So company blocks are different colors. Companies are those 6 different colors. The first person to buy a block of that color to win the auction of it becomes that company for the rest of the game.
And that can be good and or bad.
Sure.
Because the more companies you have, the more ability you have to get potential points, but you are now more vulnerable to other people.
As I learned in my game last night, when I tried to own all the companies.
And you own 4 of them, and basically Alfred and I wound up just beating you up because of it.
Yeah, it was a bad play in a 3-player game. Maybe a great play in a higher level, but I don't know.
Who knows? But like ultimately, if you can distill all the game state into one number, like how much money this is worth.
Right.
And so if someone...
Or how much it's worth to the other person.
Exactly.
Because so this is an important thing to distinguish. So you put forward a thing, right? Whether it's a block or one of the special tokens that we'll get into. You put them forward. The person next to you says a number or passes. The person beyond that says a number or passes. Let's say the person left to me says 4. The person next to them says 5. Then it comes back to me. I decide right now. I have all the person who put the block forward is the last to bid, and they have the most interesting decisions to make. They decide if the last bid is 5, do I want to pay $5 and win it, or do I want to take $5 from that person and they won it? So your only way of making money in the game is to be the highest bidder on an auction that does not win it.
Exactly.
And so often you are trying to pick, do I want to win this? Or am I picking, usually what you're actually doing, because on your turn, it's usually the way to make money. And that's the time to get paid. You want to pick something somebody else needs.
Absolutely. Like yesterday when we were playing, I picked, things that I thought people should need. And if they undervalued it, I just bought it and I punished them for not paying enough.
That's right. That's what you have to do. Yeah. You have to punish people for not bidding correctly.
And so, that's basically the game. This is worth something. Your ability to assess how much it's truly worth is going to reward you.
Yeah.
And if I can assess better than you, probably I'm going to win.
Yeah.
It's the way I say it is like this game is like burpees for me.
That's so workout burpees, which is everybody hates burpees.
Yes, like push up, jump, push. No,
horrible.
I'm not CrossFit. So,
right.
But because I don't like bidding because I'm not very good at it. I don't actually assess situations.
There's a lot of math going on.
And the hardest thing about this game is every single round you are making a decision.
Yeah, constant. That's all you're doing in this game is bidding. There's one thing happening in this game, bidding. That's it. That's the whole game.
But more than that, every single round, even if it's not your turn, you have to do that analysis.
Right.
And I think that's, I don't know if it's unique, but it's definitely a brain burner in that regard. Because you're always evaluating the board state. It's a very tactical game.
Yeah.
You always have to do these things. And it just makes me go, I don't want to spend my energy doing this because I'm just not that good. It's like, it's just shame.
Yeah.
I feel like I should be better at this.
Yeah. No, this has a similar negative play experience that we just talked about in Avalon, but it's much faster and it's much harder to suss out really what you did wrong or right because there's so many micro decisions happening at all times.
And it can shift wildly.
Yeah.
The thing about this game that I find that to make the most pleasurable game experience is like if everyone is invested. If you have someone who isn't really thinking clearly,
right,
like that person probably won't win, but they'll probably inadvertently king make.
Right. So we'll get into that in a second. Let me just give people a little bit of an overview, just for people who don't know the game very well. So in Estates, you have a stack of checks. Okay, and at the beginning of the game, everybody gets 12 checks. Each check is worth $1 million. And the Kickstarter has a nice little thing where some of the people who paid more on Kickstarter got to have their names written on the checks and their signatures or whatever. So every check has $1 million on it, but you basically have 12 $1 million pieces of paper at the beginning of the game. And that's it. It is a closed economy. Mm-hmm. So that is all the money that's going to be in the game is how many players times 12. And on your turn, you can hide $1 million under the board if you want. That is saying that is 1 point at the end of the game guaranteed for you. At the end of the game, you will get points plus money hidden under the board, and that's it. Money in hand is worth nothing. So at the beginning of your turn, you can tuck one. Then there are going to be 36 cubes, of which you only play with 24 in each game. So you pull them from a random bag. 24 cubes are going to be in the game. The cubes are the 6 different colors of the 6 different companies, ranging between values of 1 and 6. There's one of each. You will then make a 3x8 grid of those cubes. So you'll have 24 cubes. And you also are going to have some special tokens. So let's talk about those special tokens. So there are 12 roof tiles ranging between 1 and 6. There are 2 of each. Those are going to all be put on the table face down. And then you're going to have 5 special tokens. 3 that will extend or unextend, diminish, shorten the length of a row. 1 that will double the value or the negative value of every of the row that it's on, and 1 that's an X that removes a lengthener or a diminisher or
sure.
a shortener. So the board you're actually playing on. So every time you win a cube, you're going to place it on this little board.
You must place it.
You must place it on the board. Yeah, you cannot decide not to. It is a 3x4 grid of places that you can put cubes, and then beyond that, there's a river, and there's another 3x6 grid. So the theoretical maximum of a row could go all the way to 10. But all you need to do in order to end the game, the end game condition is 2 finished rows. There are 3 possible rows, 2 finished. So what does finished mean? All the way to the river or to the extender if it's there, or to the shortener if it's there.
Yep.
And all that you need to have a finished building on that row is a building with a roof. Doesn't matter how tall the building is. It can be the maximum of 6 or the minimum of 1. If there's a roof on it, the building is finished. Once there are 2 finished rows, meaning all buildings have roofs, and it goes either to the river or to the extender. If there's an extender there, the game ends. And the person with the top cube in every finished building will get points.
Or negative points.
Right. So if it's a finished row, they'll get points for all the cubes in that building, plus the value of the roof, ranging from 1 to 6. And if it is, and all the cubes, so let's say I've never seen this, but if you had a building that went all the way from 6 to 1, so you would count all of them. If as long as yours 1 is there, you get all the points beneath, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then whatever the value of the roof is between 1 and 6. Then that scores. So any unfinished rows, though, are negative points. And there is the mayor hat. And the mayor hat is a little piece that can be auctioned as well, and that will double the value of a row. So if it's on a completed row, it will double it positively. If it's on an incomplete row, it will double it negatively. You then lose. So at the end of the game, you lose points for everything that you are the owner of. So once again, if you're the top cube, it's yours, and now you've lost all the points for every cube beneath you, and the roof tile if there's one there as well. And so in most games, I would say in most games, the game ends because we've run out of roof tiles. Yeah. So that's the only other way the game ends. When there cannot be a legal auction, when you cannot have an auction that would lead to a piece being placed on the board, meaning there's no more roofs left. And if there's no more roof left, you automatically end because no more buildings can be completed. But sometimes there just actually isn't a legal place for a block either, or a roof. So potentially the game would end there.
Yeah, like if you use a lot of diminishers.
Right. I've found that happens often, and here's why, because the diminishers are the extenders. So there are three special things that can go up for sale. Well, four, including the X. They have a 1, 2, or 3 written on them, and they extend past the river. So remember, usually a row will complete when it hits the river. The extender or shortener will change that rule. So now what once could be a finished row with 4, let's say you and one other person are working together to build this row, you're putting roofs on everything, and somebody drops the 3 extender on it, extending it 3 more blocks, and now you need 3 more completed buildings. So not just cubes, but cubes and roofs. And that's a lot of work. And usually if whatever the 3 is on, that ain't finishing. So now you have to look at that and go,
all these are negative.
All these are negative. Do I have a chance at winning? So one thing you can do is there's an X tile. The X tile can erase an extender. Just boom, out of the game, gone. Or other extenders can shorten or extend it. So now you have a 3. Somebody else could add a 2 to make it 5. Somebody else could add a 1 to make it 6, making the theoretical maximum of 10. Or you could decide to bring it closer too. Somebody puts the 3 on it, you put the 2 to move it 2 closer. Now you only have to build 1 extra building and roof. And that is all the rules of the game. So the first person, as we said before, the first person to buy a cube owns a company forever. Top buildings, top blocks on all buildings, whether finished or unfinished at the end of the game, will score all points for that one person who owns that company. So let's talk about how the game often plays. There is often in a 5-player game, which is, I'm going to say that's our favorite way to play it, with the maximum player count. Although I've heard it plays great at 2. It's a very interesting sort of
chess match.
I cut, you choose kind of game. Mm-hmm. The 3-player game I thought was interesting, but also deadly. 4 is fine. 5 is great.
Yeah.
Because in 5 there are 6 companies, right? And in a 5-player game, I will say there's almost always one person with no companies. So how can you win if there's no companies? Well, by every single person in the game having more negative points than you.
Yep. If you have no companies, you will not go negative. You cannot go negative.
Right.
But you can't go positive either.
We've had games.
Well, you can tuck.
We've had many games where every player was negative and the winner had the least negative points. So if you do not have a company, your goal of the game is to have 0 rows finish.
Absolutely.
That's your only chance of winning, unless you're tucking.
Tucking.
But then you could tuck. You want the game to go very long. You tuck every round. At the end of the game, you have the most points tucked, and everybody else has negative. That's your strategy. But that's a tough game because you have like everybody's good guys, and you have one villain trying to like destroy everybody's game.
Oh, you mean like it's almost like you have to play a certain meta to do that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your experiences playing, because I find you've often played that role. So tell us how it goes and what that play experience is like.
Well, for me, like we played this game yesterday, and I've been thinking about the game, and I think like the piece that really hurts the negative, the anti-player, the person who wants to hurt everyone else, is the X.
Right.
So the eraser.
Right. And one that will get rid of an extender or a shortener.
So I was first player yesterday, and I go, you know what? We're going to play all in pen. There's no pencil mark here. So I put the X up for auction. Matt goes like, I'm not going to pay for that.
Right.
And Alfred goes, I'm not going to pay for that. Boom. Now we're playing a game of...
Right. So the special tiles do not have to be placed, other than I believe the mayor does. But so the X or the 3 extenders, instead of placing them, you could just decide this is out of the game.
Absolutely.
So obviously if the X comes out first, there's nothing for it to do, so it just disappears from the game.
And why would anyone bid for that?
Right. And who would ever pay $1 for it, because there are no decisions to be made once you win it.
And then when it came back to me, I put the 3 extender on for bid.
Yeah.
And and people only had like 2 blocks up there. Well, like there's plenty of time to adjust,
right?
Or at least I'm playing our meta. Like that, like people are going, oh well. Then I make their 1 row to be a extended by 3, and so this is Death Alley.
Right.
Everyone who comes here is gonna die.
And you were trying the strategy of like make people have to pay for these things.
Exactly.
I was trying the strategy of I'm not going to pay for anything until I know I need it.
Exactly.
And that didn't work.
And then when it came back to me again, I did the same thing for number 2. I didn't buy any companies until maybe round 5.
Right.
And I won with the least amount of tiles, of blocks. And so after those things were put in place, what I wound up doing was I basically go, here's your tile, your block, Matt. Would you like to pay for this, or would you like me to? And like Matt kept on, and Alfred too. Like they kept on lowballing me. I go, And so I just put in what would be the negative row. And since there's no way to erase that negative row, like I think eventually around like maybe the midpoint of the game, people saw what I was doing and it was like, oh, I hate you.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that. So here's an interesting thing I've learned. So to me, I'm just going to say right now, I rate this game a 9.5.
Yeah.
I think for what it attempts to do, it is absolutely near perfect. My -5, I give it. My -0.5, I give it. Is that there is often a game state at the end of the game where there are no choices left to be made.
Yes.
And it is just math.
Exactly.
And it is, okay, if this is bought, there's only one place it can go. If this is bought, there's only one place it can go. If this is bought, there's only one place it can go. And I've noticed there are not all games, but some, and not the majority of games even, end in somebody just going, all right, everybody just pause. We can math out how the next 5 rounds go. There are no choices to be made here, and we will figure out the winner. It's not game breaking at all. It's just, it's that -0.5 to me that for making it a perfect 10, guys. I mean, I honestly think this is close to a perfect board game because what it attempts to do, it does perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I unlike even Avalon, like Avalon will make you a better liar.
Yeah.
You know, this game will have, but like aren't that many games that require you to be a liar. This game, there are tons of bidding games.
Yeah.
And if you were to get good at this game, it would really spread to all your games. You would really become a better gamer because of this game.
That's right. So and I think much like Avalon, I think this is like going to this is board game gym.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to the board game gym.
Yeah.
I mean, this will train you. I mean, you will become a better Age of Steam player. You will become a better 18xx player. You will become a better brass player. Any brutal economic game, you will become better at because of your strengthening of the board state evaluation muscle. Exactly.
You know, and I love it because I hate it because I'm not naturally strong at this. And you know, it's like working out. Like you don't want to go work out. Like, you know, I'd rather just play something I'm good at or have fun with. But like, if you really want to get good at this mechanic, like you know, like the bidding and assessment, I think this is. I don't know of another game that is as quick, as concentrated as this to
No, this is pure down to like distilled, pure, solid board game.
And we've played this maybe for like maybe a month now, a month and a half,
couple months, maybe.
and we haven't scratched the surface.
No,
like, you know,
that's another thing about this game. Yeah, I mean,
can
it
be
is
really deep. Yeah.
The first few times I played this game, I went, I can't even imagine the depth of this game. Because I said, like at the end of the game, you can't even retrace your steps and figure out, like, every move is a ripple that then that warps another ripple in the pond.
Sure.
And by the end, it's just this crazy landscape. You can't even really imagine like what decisions led you to the place you're in, because there's so many micro decisions happening at all times.
And it's so tactical. It changes all the time. And I think for us, like, in our group, we haven't found a steady state meta yet.
Yeah,
I think that's why
that's right too. We can't even say like, well, this is too strong.
Like yesterday, I tried the anti
chaos,
the chaos or whatever. The what would be thematically? Who would be the guy who is trying to get everyone to go negative? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the Joker. I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
The Joker. It was the first time I did it successfully. Where, but like, when we play 5-player, or if people see it coming, you can mitigate that.
Yeah.
You could definitely.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I haven't changed the meta. I've just put a wrinkle in it. Well,
yeah.
I haven't solved the meta.
Yeah.
You know, I just put a wrinkle that now people have to put into the process.
Well, I think so. It's one of my strategy points on this game is that the more I play, the more I realize if you are going to be, there's two types of people in this game, right? There's the Joker and then the investor.
Yep.
Right. If you decide to become an investor, and you decide by just having a company and by buying one of the blocks, you are then, one of your game victory conditions is to make sure there are no jokers in the game. You are incentivized to make other people get into to have skin in the game. You need everyone to have skin in the game. And you want the most people to have skin in your game in your rows that you're invested in. Because the more people that are involved in those rows, the worst thing you can do is to build take a 6. And so there are 3 spots on the board that have sand on the bottom of them. So thematically, it's like they can't take heavy buildings. And so they can only hold 1 brick. The worst play you can do, turn 1, is to buy a 6 and put it on the sand spot. There is 1 sand spot that's at the very front. You're done. you've lost the game if you do that, because no one is incentivized to help join that row. You already have the strongest building in that row. You're already there. You're already getting 6 points. Anybody else who builds something else is going to go, I'm not coming in that row.
Yeah, it's Death Alley.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, because like nobody's incentivized to help you. You've already scored 6 points. But if you put a 6 somewhere else, I wouldn't. If I were you, I wouldn't pay very much for that 6 because the odds are it won't end up yours. But you just plop it down. You go like, hey guys, here's a row.
We can
Join
be
in.
friends.
Yeah, and also you can go on top of my thing.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've done a little work here together. You want friends. You want people to have skin in the game. You want people who are going to help rush roofs, because roofs are the limited resource of the game. There are only 12 in the entire game, and you potentially need a minimum of 8. So you can only 4 roofs can go to the wrong row in the whole game, or else none of your rows will score most likely.
Yeah, no, it's rough. Like it's I feel that in the end, like when we find our steady state, we'll find it'll be some form of like, I don't want to say a semi-co-op, but like the obvious good move for you, game theory wise, is probably the wrong thing for the steady state.
Yeah.
I think people, you want people to be helping each other, and in that fog, like come out the winner.
Yeah.
So basically Jesse's Catan negotiating strategy would probably be not so good.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. No, that is true. You do not, if you're acting like, nobody help me, don't bother me, I'm going to win this. If you're like taking the Maverick Rogue strategy in this, people will go, okay, good luck. You're going to need some friends here. You should want me to want to help you.
That's right. And so it's very interesting. Like, it's right now, like I feel the only thing that we don't know in the game, like it's all information is public-ish, except for the roofs. That's the only thing that's hidden.
Yeah. Yeah. So roofs are face down, so you don't know the values of them. You pick one, you randomly flip it over, and sometimes it's a 6, sometimes it's a 1.
The thing that's hardest for me is like you can play this game like, oh, I'm just having beer and pretzels, and we're just kind of
right.
But I say in each situation, every time that it comes to you, there is a right move. There is like a mathematical right move, and when the bid comes around, there is a right bid for you to make.
Right. Well, tell me what you were saying about AI last night.
Like, yeah, I was thinking like there was a talk about was it an article? It was an article like I think some people at MIT created this AI to play Avalon. And, I watched some videos about this, and I was going like, oh, like, they've really taken the most simplest form. But it was really interesting because the AI, if it was to play only itself, like you add a human player, the win rate goes down by like 10%. And if you add a AI to like a group of humans,
all human,
the win percentage goes up by 10. So like there's a certain amount evaluation.
The win for whichever team, the good or bad team.
Exactly. Like I feel like with the estates, like this would be in the realm of say AlphaGo, where like it can evaluate almost everything. Tactically, it can make a this is the best piece to come out right now. This is how much this piece is worth. And if people bid lower than that, I will buy it. If people bid higher than that, I come out ahead.
It would be fascinating to watch 5 AI play against each other in this game.
Huge.
It would be. It'd be like watching the Super Bowl. I would just get like beer and pizza.
Absolutely.
I would watch that I would watch like a 2-hour stream of that. Like it would be so fascinating to see what choices it would make. You'd be like, it just picked the 2 blue. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what was really interesting is that the only thing that really I don't see how to program quite yet is basically what piece to auction.
Yeah.
Because like when it comes to you and like someone gives you a choice, it's deterministic. Like there's going to be a number where this is worth this. Like kind of like just like a chess program. Like when you're playing a chess, it goes like, oh, here's how much this is worth. Here's the board state and blah blah blah. But I'm not sure how to go like, oh, this is time for a time for a hat. It's time for an extender. It's time for a...
Well, it depends on what numbers are out, right? Because
absolutely.
There's a different distribution of numbers and colors every
absolutely.
time. So if there is, I think like mid-range numbers are the most valuable because they, of course, have the least amount of things that can go on top of them while scoring the most amount of points. But it totally depends. I mean, if there are a lot of 1s out, then anything other than a 1 becomes dangerous.
Yeah,
but if there is 1 out and it's in the middle of the stack and you might not even get to it, then 2s are super strong.
Yeah, no, like there's a distribution of the blocks, and the more center it is, the more difficult it is to get.
Right.
So like
because you have to work your way in. You can only put something for auction from the edges of the 8x3 grid of 24 blocks.
Yeah, but like it's all it's all this mathable thing.
Yeah.
And so I'd be really interested to see how an AI does
Everything has a correct valuation.
Exactly. That's
Right.
that's what makes it hard for people who want to play competitive because like I could spend 2 seconds going like two, you know, for my bid, but I could spend 2 hours and
Yeah.
go like, actually the answer is 2.
That's what I like about this game. I think that makes it a little more fun for Avalon for me is that I don't feel like in this game I can just if I just want to play the game and not work too hard, I can still have a great experience.
Exactly.
And it's still a fun story unfolds and everybody's laughing and things that go up are funny.
Laughing is a
yeah, or upset or whatever. But I mean, if I decide to just go like I'm tired. Like this is a good end of night game, but it's also a good beginning of night game. If the more you can put all the energy you want into it, and it will give it back to you, or you can put in none, and you will get a lot back. I don't feel that way with Avalon. If I'm like Avalon requires a base amount of energy, no matter what.
'Cause you have to perform.
You have to perform exactly. That's it. And this does not require. You could just go. I'm just going to have some fun and just see what happens.
The caveat of this is like if you don't want to be the guy who's really serious and everyone else be casual, and vice versa.
I don't know. That makes it an interesting game, though. It's not, it doesn't. It's not a nightmare.
Like I think you'll like if Trey were to play this, everyone's casual, or and he was like really serious.
Right.
I think he would have a less good time because there'd be
it'd be like playing poker with a bunch of people who've never
Exactly.
played poker before. You would just be
Exactly.
like, well, none of my choices mean anything because nobody's evaluating the board state.
and so now it's just a roll of the dice kind of thing. So
But this is a game also. What's interesting about this game? I think it's about as deep and complex as any game that I've ever played. But I could teach it to anyone.
Yes, no, it's
anyone
great.
who's like, I could teach this to someone who has never played a game in their entire lives, and they would get it in 30 seconds.
yeah, no, it's really like
Literally, it's a 30-second teach.
it's really excellent in that way. It's streamlined
Yeah.
in a way that it cuts down to what it exactly is very quickly.
And you teach this to anybody, and you instantly see that light bulb go off, where they go, "Oh, this game's messed up."
That's right. It's like bid 4. Like,
Yeah.
let's start over.
Yeah, no, this is, I mean, people who have never played games before, you teach this to them, and I've watched them go like, the moment they realize this is the meanest game ever made, because everything you do can be undone, and everything you do can undo somebody else.
The consequence of choices is huge.
Yeah. You buy a 6. Hey, you spent a lot of money. You got a great cube. I buy a 1. I spent nothing. Your 6 is mine now, or vice versa. I mean, like there's so many great things there. Or I just extended everybody's row that was doing great. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, so I know it's great. Like it's too bad. So when you have a chance to buy it, I think we can definitely recommend this game if you're that type of game group that can deal with a little knife stabby.
This is almost in my top 10 of all time.
Me too, almost.
Yeah, it is right at the edge. It's in my top 20, guaranteed. Probably my top 15.
Like for me, like it's too new for me to really know because we haven't hit the steady state yet.
Yeah.
Of the meta, so maybe there's something I'm missing, but like it's pretty close.
It is out of stock right now. There will be a reprint coming because Capstone Games is a successful company and they're wonderful, and they will reprint it at some point. That's The Estates. I think it's one of the great games ever made, and it came out this year. I think that's a great sign. I mean,
Great time to be alive,
the
everyone.
reprint came out. The original game is from 2007, but yeah, what a brilliant and interesting design. That's worth anybody who likes games trying at least once.
Yeah, and for $40, I mean, it's really worth it. You're going to get a lot of mileage out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.